So, what a pleasure always to be here. And this is a doubly special day because we're celebrating 5 years of the Compassion Consortium. Maybe some of you were here for our very first Sunday gathering with Bruce Friedrich, who's now part of the Good Food Institute. And he was here sharing about his Roman Catholic faith and his history of many, many years of working for animals. And the double joy of today is that our guest is Jamie Logan. And as we talk with somebody like Bruce, who goes way back in the movement, Jamie is the future of the movement. I admire this young woman to the moon and back. I knew her as an animal activist from several years ago because she's been doing this, it seems, from the cradle. And now she combines her animal activism with a deep and powerful practice of yoga. So, welcome, Jamie.
Wow, thank you so much, Victoria. And thanks all of you for spending your Sunday here with us. You're so kind, and really just to walk in your footsteps and learn from you. It's been an honor to know you, to meet you, to work together. So thanks for having me today.
Well, I think that the animals are definitely in good hands when there are what are you, Gen X or Gen Z? I can't
Gen
keep my
Z.
Gen. You're Gen Z. Well, then you will see this to the end, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So tell us a little bit about, have you always been an animal activist? Did you start out this way?
I wish I did not come out of the womb vegan. I was just, grew up in a household where animals were eaten, worn. I didn't really know much about animal testing. And I always called myself an animal lover because I had a dog growing up who was my best friend, and her name was Daisy. And so I was super connected with Daisy, but I didn't actually connect the dots with the animals on my plate until I was about 13. So I came across a pig livestock truck on the highway when I was visiting my grandparents one summer in Indiana. And if anyone on here has ever seen one of those livestock trucks, it's pretty jarring. I mean, it's a big metal truck and there's these holes on the side. And sometimes I think maybe I had passed livestock trucks in my life, but never took the time to look inside and really see what was in there. But for some particular reason, this one time I did look, I did see it. I was ready to see it, and there were pigs inside. And I just remember looking at the pigs and looking at my dog who was on my lap and feeling really uncomfortable about it. And from that moment on, I could no longer eat pigs. And then it kind of led to, not eating cows, and then not eating chickens, and then going vegan.
And how long after that did you take this into activism and really made this your life?
Pretty quickly, I went vegan for the animals. And so when I saw what was happening to them, I was deeply disturbed and wanted to try and do something about it. I went on I went to an AV Cube because a cousin of mine lives out in California. Her name's Alex, and she's been vegan for 15 plus years at the time, now over, I think, 25 years. And she said, come and visit me. She's older than me, so we never really connected. But when she found out that I was vegan, she was trying to get me into activism. And so I went to go visit her, and she took me to my first cube. And believe it or not, I was so shy. I stood at this event. For those of you that might not be familiar with AV, it's a form of activism where we hold TV screens that show standard practices of what happens to animals for food, clothing, cosmetics, entertainment, really all the ways that animals are used. And it's just standard practices, but it's pretty disturbing. So you hold the TV screen and then you have conversations with passerby. And so I remember I was like, Alex, I am not talking to anyone. I'm hiding behind the mask and the TV. And I was overhearing her conversations, and just the way that people opened up and even changed that day. I was like, okay, this is something I want to do. Like, I want to help people and I want to help animals, and our voices are so much more powerful than we think. So I went back to New York. She's in California. I went back to New York, started doing AV cubes there. And I did, like, I would say activism in many different forms for about 5 or 6 years before I even started filming or starting up my own organization, Jamie's Corner, which is what I do now. But I really just, I went to everything to see like what my style was. You know, maybe some of you are like, oh, I'm not a protester type. Oh, I could never go to a slaughterhouse vigil. I thought these things, but I was open to like trying it out because I was like, I just want to help animals and I don't know how. I don't know what the right thing to do is. But what happened was I started to get burned out real quick.
And I can't even believe that about you because now you're so out there. You seem to have this endless flow of energy. So what brought you back and beyond?
Yoga, Jivamukti yoga specifically. So I stepped into a yoga studio downtown on the Lower East Side knowing nothing about it. I just decided, like, let me start practicing maybe meditation or yoga can tend to calm you down. So I've heard, I really knew nothing about it. And I had stepped into this studio only because it was close to my house, not because I knew what Jivamukti was all about. Well, I come to find out that the founders of Jivamukti Yoga, Sharon Gannon and David Life, were longtime animal rights activists. They were vegan activists who created Jivamukti Yoga as a means to talk about veganism and relate the yogic teachings, Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, the Bhagavad Gita, relate these teachings to veganism. So veganism, I found out, was actually just a way to put these compassionate teachings into action. And yoga provided me a grounding for a place to speak up for the animals that was less about ego and more about compassion and love-based activism.
Hmm. That is so beautiful. I became vegetarian because of yoga. I had tried to do it when I was 13 for the animals and lasted several months. But then when I found out about yoga, which was very difficult to find out about then, there were 3 books in my local library, but all 3 books said if you're going to be serious about yoga, you have to be vegetarian. And I didn't hear about veganism for a few years after that. But there's this, it's another way, I think, to get people in. So when you look at yoga today in the West, I mean, most yogis are not vegan. Many have even given up on the vegetarian tradition. Why do you think that is? And what can we do about it?
I think it goes back to what their intention is when practicing, because truly yoga could be for somebody whatever they want it to be. If you want to get more flexible and that's all you want from an asana practice, that could be just that. If you want happiness, if you want enlightenment, you can also get that through yoga. And so it really goes back to what is your intention. And when we look at what yoga really is, I think we have to define yoga. So yuj, the root of the word means to unite, to connect. So the question is, well, what are we uniting or connecting with? Well, what I've been taught from my teachers is yoga means to connect with God, connect with the divine, and connect with the self, the capital S. So when we are connected to that state of being, we have no desire to harm others, to eat others. We have this inner self-confidence that shines from within us where we don't need to dominate and take from others because yoga is the state of missing nothing. And so when I learned that from my teachers, I was like, I want to teach yoga. I want to teach Jivamukti yoga because I believe we can create lasting change in people. We can create quality change in people where when they are feeling this state of yoga, then they can go out into the world and create positive change from that place. And so when we look at these teachings of yoga, the first ethical principle, the first guideline, yoga has 5 yamas. It's codes of behaviors, which basically are restrictions of how we should not treat others. The yamas are how we should not treat others. The first yama is ahimsa. Ahimsa means do no harm. And the way to put that into practice in our everyday lives off of the yoga mat is by being vegan. And then there's, 4 others. I could go into them and break them down, but for the purposes of time, maybe we don't want to go there. But I think that really covers it. And I think that yogis might get confused. To answer your question, Victoria, yogis might get confused and think that the yamas are how we should treat ourselves. Because sometimes you hear people say, I need to eat meat because it's for my body, for me to feel good. Or I have to wear leather or fur because I want to stay warm. Well, actually, the yamas, the yogic teachings are not about how, the niyamas are how to treat yourself. But the yamas, the ethical guidelines of behavior, are how to treat others. And the others, it's not saying just people. It's all others, all beings.
So go ahead and give us the list, just so that people won't feel like, oh, I heard the first one. What are the others?
Sure. Okay, so the 5 are, we have ahimsa, we have satya. I'll break them down. So ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. So ahimsa, do no harm. Satya means truth. So do not lie. And the meat, dairy, and egg industries thrive off of lies. All they do is lie to the public, so much so that people can't even look at where their food comes from, and yet they're eating these products multiple times a day. So do not lie. Asteya, don't steal. Well, we're stealing from the animals. We're taking everything from their feathers, their fur, their milk, their eggs, their flesh, their babies, their lives. We're taking everything from them, stealing. So do not steal. Brahmacharya, it means walk with the teacher. And my teacher, Sharon Gannon, has interpreted this as do not sexually assault, do not dominate. Walk in line with acharya, the teacher. The teacher would not do these things. So ethical code of behavior. Do not dominate and put others down to make yourself feel better. Well, what are we doing to the animals? We forcefully breed them into existence to kill them. They're sexually assaulted. The dairy industry jerks off bulls, takes the semen and artificially inseminates the female just to steal her baby, and then kills them once they're born if they're male. It's domination. It's sexual assault. So brahmacharya. And then the last one, aparigraha. Don't be greedy. And we are putting a pig, a cow, the cow's milk on a burger. In just one meal, we're stealing and taking 3 lives. So don't be greedy. And so these teachings of yoga, these are the 5 yamas. And Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras, it's not specific to who these yamas apply to. He says all beings, no matter what species.
That's perfect. Go ahead and tell us the niyamas just so we'll all feel complete.
Okay, so the niyamas, how to treat yourself. So there's sausha, which is like cleanliness. So being clean, like keeping a clean household. I also interpret it as like purity in the mind. So like being careful about what you expose your mind to and your words, your speech. So purifying that. Santosha is contentment, so learning to be at peace with what is, not constantly consuming and taking more. Tapas is having discipline, so like returning to your yoga mat even when times are challenging, or doing the activism even when it's difficult, even when it's hot outside. Get out there and use your voice, speak up for the animals because they don't get a break. And we need to be there for them. So tapas, having that discipline, choosing compassion even when it's not convenient. So being vegan even when maybe other people are not. Then there's swadhyaya, so self-study, studying scriptures and teachings, constantly looking at ourselves and asking, like, how can we be better? And also looking at our teachers, like when we learn these teachings from enlightened beings, people who have experienced yoga, swadhyaya, studying that from people who really know what they're talking about. And then Patanjali says in the Yoga Sutras, he goes, okay, if none of this all works, let's say the one step to enlightenment is something called Ishvara Pranidhana Va. And that means surrender to God, surrender to the divine. So offering your actions in service to something greater than yourself. Mm-hmm. So in total, there's the 10, there's the 5 yamas, 5 niyamas. And just to summarize, the yamas are how to treat others. The niyamas are how to treat yourself.
Well, let's talk for our last few minutes about how you do this out in the world, particularly your street activism. Now, you do a lot, and we can all read the Compassion Consortium as introduction to you on the website and what you can see here in the chat. Jamie is all over the place, YouTube, podcast, movies, million things. But what I love most about you is when I see you doing street activism, because the way you communicate with people is so kind and yet so clear.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It's come a long way. I really started off in an angry state, and I was obviously just so disturbed by the state of the world and what's happening to animals that I would go off on people and my family as well. Like, it caused a lot of just fights and not much change. And so I really had to look inward, and yoga has been that practice for me of being able to do that. And it is a practice because to be able to remain calm and steady when you're having conversations with people that not only disagree with you, but oftentimes get in your face and get nasty and make really insensitive jokes about animal suffering. When you care so much, it can be truly disturbing. And so the practice for me is I have to remind myself what my intention is. So, like, I'm here to be in service to others, and I am here to really act from a place of love. So instead of looking at the people that I'm talking to as the enemy, I instead try to look at them as a potential ally. I really do try to see every single person as an opportunity to bring them, if not all the way to veganism, at least a step closer and plant the seed. So I never want somebody walking away from a conversation and being like, I hate her, and because of her, I'm never even looking into this. Like, at least they can look back on the conversation and just realize, like, maybe they weren't so nice in it, and kill them with kindness in a way. And I want them to feel like I'm on their side. It's not like us versus them, right? It's us together versus the system of what's happening to animals. And Sharon Gannon, the founder of Jivamukti Yoga, and I often talk about the karma. And karma just means action. And the rules of karma is what we do unto others comes back to us. And so we were on a train together in Europe this past summer, and we were getting a tea on the train. And this woman in front of us ordered a latte with whole milk, with cow's milk. And her and I just kind of looked at each other and were like, this is our opportunity to say something, And so then in that moment, Sharon and I are just looking at this woman, and she gets her whole milk latte and turns around. And there was this moment of just like staring at this woman. And I had managed to say something to her like, have you tried oat milk before? It's really delicious and nobody had to get hurt for it. And I had this little conversation. But when we went to go sit back down, Sharon said to me, did you see what I just saw? And I said, maybe. What did you just see? She goes, when she turned around, I saw a mother cow. I saw her chest. I saw her turn into this suffering cow. And I said, oh my God, what if we could look at non-vegans as this, with the laws of karma, them becoming the suffering farmed animals. Maybe it's a little out there, but if we can look at them with that same compassion as we have for the animals, perhaps our activism could be more effective.
Ah, that's beautiful. Jamie, bless your heart. Are you going to be able to stay for fellowship?
What time is that until?
Until about 5:30.
Okay. I have to, I'm actually filming videos at 5. Somebody's coming
Oh,
over. We're gonna do some
okay.
filming.
Well, then follow her everywhere. You can find
Thank you.
her on Instagram, YouTube, all over the place. Um, Jamie, thank you. Thank you for
Thank
your
you so much for
time,
having me.
and thank
If
you
you
for
guys
your
have,
heart.
thank you, you too, Victoria.
Oh,
And anybody that
yes.
has questions, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. And if you want to take a yoga class, I teach a free weekly class on Zoom. And I talk about yoga and veganism in my classes often. So
Wonderful. Thank you, Jamie. God
thank you.
bless.